So I think that what's happening right now is that there's been an overcorrection on the left with regards to Donald Trump's statements about the association between taking acetaminophen while pregnant and the potential of your child to develop a neurodevelopmental disorder. Um, I certainly think that the things that Donald Trump said were quite dangerous in a lot of ways. Acetaminophen remains the safest possible option, especially when, there is an actual health problem that needs to be addressed, like a high fever. And there were much greater risks to both the parent and child not to respond. But that being said, the gulf that is now developed between the understanding of the situation on the right by people listening to Donald Trump and those listening to mainstream media, I think is only serving to make what is already a dangerous public health moment significantly more worrisome. That being said, I am very much a layperson. I'm going to do my very best to try to represent these studies as honestly as possible, but I don't have the scientific backing that a lot of people that are looking at these studies have, so, grain of salt, of course. So there's definitely a risk in being overconfident in situations like this. But, obviously there's also a risk in underplaying the possibility of a connection here. And a particular study or analysis can express a range of confidence in the conclusion. For instance, there was an analysis in 2020 done that concluded that there was too much of a likelihood of a confounding variable to come to a conclusive answer about whether or not there was an association here. And if that's where the data still was, then the reaction of the left would be reasonable. But there have been a lot of meta-analysis on the subject since that point, and the conclusions have been varying degrees of we have attempted to control for the variables and an association persists. And a number of them have advised that people take action based on that and that they modify their behavior to reflect that data. So the study that I've seen cited the most often about this is a study done in Sweden with 2.5 million people, I think by far the largest study done so far, that looked at sibling pairs to try to avoid the possibility of a confounding variable that wasn't being measured for. And they found that the link basically disappeared when looked at this way, which is obviously, it's very comforting. But that being said, it's a single study, and there have been meta-analyses done since that continue to conclude that there is an association that cannot be explained with confounding factors as of yet. And the most recent analysis that Donald Trump based his statement on thought that there may have been problems in the methodology of that study, like, for instance, a significant underreporting of the number of people who were actually taking acetaminophen. That means that the results of it were not as meaningful as they seem. It is incredibly difficult to completely control for all of the possible confounding variables, which all of these studies have attempted to do. They've looked at, the possibility of infection or fever during pregnancy, maternal age, maternal health status. They didn't look at maternal autism, which, it was a gap in the data, and they certainly should have. But there are also other ways to try to see if there might be a secret confounding variable that hasn't been measured for. So, for instance, if there is a reason why a person who is taking acetaminophen might be more likely to have a child who has autism, you'd probably see them taking acetaminophen more before and after pregnancy. And so you compare those as a control, and you see that, again, there is a dose-response relationship that seems to persist, where when you apply a statistical analysis to this, the more that you take acetaminophen during pregnancy, the greater the likelihood is that your child will develop autism in a way that is not associated with taking acetaminophen before or after pregnancy. And they also compared acetaminophen with other painkillers like ibuprofen that are, again, more dangerous to see if the link existed there. And again, they believe that the association only remains with the. Just once again, none of these studies are saying don't take acetaminophen. They are all recommending that it is still the safest option. But many of them are saying that they believe that there should be a change in behavior, that doctors should be limiting the amount, and that people should be responding to health concerns during pregnancy under the guidance of their doctors to limit these various risks associated. Just to try to make sure that I'm not misrepresenting the data, I'm just going to read straight from this most recent analysis. It says, these adjusted results provided strong evidence that the observed relationship was not confounded, but in fact was likely relationship, even though there is, as always, possibility for residual confounding. Now, I do need to say that I've seen some people call this analysis into question. And to be honest, I have a hard time believing that they would be making the types of criticisms that they're making about it if it weren't for what Trump then went on to say. Especially given, that it is very much in line with the other meta-analyses that have been coming out recently. And to be honest, this is a bit of a pattern on the left with overcorrecting and overreacting to health information that is being spread on the right in potentially dangerous ways. And I think that it A, makes everyone's understanding of the situation worse, and B, reduces our capacity to actually respond to those issues when we're having such a different reaction to the information that is being presented. And if we align the way that we're talking about this better with the science, I think we'll be more able to accurately explain why it is that it is still important to take acetaminophen in certain cases while pregnant. Hank Green made a video that I think was really great about how ivermectin was talked about on the left, and that, it was treated as this completely ludicrous idea that it might possibly be beneficial even before the science actually fully came out to support that. And I think this is ultimately going to be worse than that for faith in public health because of the disconnect from the ways that people are talking about this in the media and in general, and the ways that people are talking about this in the actual published reports. And certainly, if it ever comes out that there is an association here, which it's looking like it very well might, that's only going to further undermine faith that the right has, that the media is going to be giving them the information that they need.